The restaurant fell silent in Noah Calloway's mind the moment he saw her. 1 second, he was nervously adjusting the sleeves of the only blazer he owned, preparing to meet the woman his friend insisted would change his life. The next, his heart nearly stopped. Sitting at the reserved table wasn't a stranger waiting for a blind date. It was his CEO, Victoria Ashcroft, the powerful woman who had spent the last 3 years treating him like nothing more than another employee inside Ashcroft Engineering. She stared back at him with the same stunned expression, while the untouched glasses of water between them suddenly felt like an ocean neither of them knew how to cross. Before we begin this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who still believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel. Soulful Tales. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Noah had never imagined his Friday evening ending like this. He almost turned around and walked out, convinced there had been some terrible mistake. But then he noticed another woman standing beside the table, smiling awkwardly. She introduced herself as Clara, the younger sister of Noah's co-worker, Jenna. Jenna had spent months trying to convince Noah that life was too short to spend every evening working overtime before rushing home to take care of his 8-year-old daughter. Noah always laughed the idea away. Dating belonged to another version of his life, the one that existed before his wife passed away after a long battle with illness. Since then, every decision he made revolved around one promise: to give little, Hazel the happiest childhood possible, even if it meant sacrificing every dream he still carried inside. Unknown to Noah, Jenna had also been trying to set her sister up with someone kind after Clara's painful divorce. She had booked the restaurant weeks earlier. But when Clara arrived, another woman had already been seated at the reserved table because of a misunderstanding with the restaurant manager. That woman happened to be Victoria Ashcroft, who was waiting for an important business investor delayed by traffic. Neither Noah nor Victoria understood how fate had woven such an impossible coincidence. Victoria was known throughout the company as cold, demanding, and impossible to impress. Employees whispered that she remembered every mistake, but never noticed anyone's sacrifices. Noah rarely spoke to her beyond project updates, though she had quietly observed something different about him. She often noticed him arriving before sunrise and leaving long after everyone else. She had seen him refuse promotions that required travel without ever explaining why. She assumed he simply lacked ambition. She had been wrong. The restaurant manager apologized repeatedly, but heavy rain outside had filled every table in town. Moving either reservation would require another hour of waiting. Clara laughed softly at the absurdity of the situation and suggested everyone simply share the table until the investor arrived. For Noah, every minute felt painfully uncomfortable. He expected Victoria to criticize him for being there, maybe even assume he was trying to impress management outside work. Instead, something unexpected happened. She noticed the tiny handmade bracelet around his wrist. Its colorful beads spelled one simple word: Dad? Victoria asked about it with genuine curiosity. Noah smiled in a way no one at work had ever seen. He explained that Hazel made it during summer camp after learning to tie knots herself. She told him superheroes didn't wear expensive watches. They wore reminders of who they loved. For the first time, Victoria saw not an employee, but a father. As dinner continued, Clara politely excused herself after receiving an emergency call from her neighbor about her young son. She apologized profusely before leaving, promising Jenna would never stop teasing her about this disaster. Now Noah and Victoria sat alone. Neither of them wanted to admit the evening felt strangely peaceful. Away from conference rooms and deadlines, they discovered conversations that had nothing to do with quarterly reports. Victoria confessed she had grown up surrounded by wealth but very little affection. Her parents taught her how to negotiate billion-dollar contracts before they ever taught her how to celebrate birthdays or comfort someone in pain. Success became her language because love had never been. Noah shared stories about Hazel's bedtime adventures, school art projects, and how she believed every shooting star was someone in heaven, sending hugs to the people they missed. Victoria listened without interrupting. She realized she hadn't laughed this sincerely in years. The following Monday, the office buzzed with rumors after someone spotted Noah leaving the same restaurant as the CEO. People assumed favoritism, secret promotions, or hidden relationships. Noah hated gossip. Victoria ignored it. But everything changed during the company's annual community outreach project. Every executive was expected to volunteer at a neighborhood center. Most executives considered it another publicity event. Noah brought Hazel because her babysitter canceled. While other children played games, Hazel wandered toward Victoria carrying a drawing. She handed it over without hesitation. The picture showed 3 people standing beneath a rainbow. One was labeled me. Another said Daddy. The third simply read, The Nice Lady. Victoria blinked. Hazel explained that her father smiled differently after dinner at the restaurant. She thanked Victoria for making him laugh. No board presentation. No award. No business victory. Nothing had ever affected Victoria the way those innocent words did. For days afterward, she couldn't stop thinking about them. She began paying closer attention to Noah's work. Not to find mistakes, to understand him. She discovered he regularly fixed problems created by others without taking credit. He mentored new employees after hours. He skipped lunch breaks to finish projects early. Because he wanted evenings free for Hazel. One afternoon, Victoria quietly reviewed payroll records. She noticed Noah had never used most of his vacation days. Instead of taking breaks, he converted them into extra income whenever company policy allowed. She finally understood. He wasn't chasing money. He was chasing security for his daughter. Meanwhile, Noah struggled with another challenge. Hazel's elementary school announced expensive science camp fees. He couldn't comfortably afford after unexpected medical bills. He decided to work weekends repairing neighbors' appliances to earn the extra money. He never mentioned his situation to anyone, not even Jenna. One rainy Saturday evening, Victoria drove through Noah's neighborhood after visiting an industrial supplier nearby. She saw him kneeling in an elderly widow's garage fixing her broken furnace. When she asked why he was working without charging normal rates, the widow smiled. She explained, Noah only accepted enough money to buy replacement parts because her late husband had once helped him after his own wife died. He says kindness should always return to where it started, she said. Victoria drove away with tears she hadn't expected. For years, she believed leadership meant demanding perfection. Now she wondered if true leadership looked more like quiet compassion nobody applauded. A week later, the company announced a surprise restructuring. Employees feared layoffs. Instead, Victoria introduced an entirely new family support program. Flexible schedules for single parents, emergency child care assistance, expanded bereavement leave, educational scholarships for employees' children. The board questioned the costs. Victoria answered with something no financial report could argue against. If we build machines but forget the people building them, we are already failing. Applause filled the room. Noah had no idea those changes existed because of lessons Victoria had learned simply by watching him live. Months passed. Hazel finally attended science camp. She returned home carrying a small trophy for teamwork rather than academic achievement. She proudly announced that helping others solve problems mattered more than winning alone. Noah smiled because those words sounded strangely familiar. Victoria continued changing. She visited community centers without cameras. She learned employees' children's names. She even started leaving the office before sunset occasionally, discovering parks, bookstores, and ordinary evenings she had ignored for decades. One afternoon, Jenna admitted the blind date disaster had become the greatest accident she'd ever caused. Everyone laughed, even Victoria. The walls around her heart had begun disappearing. One winter evening, Ashcroft Engineering celebrated its anniversary with a company banquet. Hundreds attended. During her speech, Victoria surprised everyone. Instead of talking about profits or expansion, she spoke about humanity. She never mentioned Noah by name, but every word reflected what she had learned from him. She said one person had reminded her that strength wasn't measured by titles, salaries, or corner offices. Strength was waking every morning despite heartbreak and choosing kindness anyway. The audience stood together in applause. Noah lowered his eyes, hoping nobody noticed the emotion on his face. Later that night, Hazel ran across the ballroom carrying another handmade bracelet. This one had different colored beads. It spelled one word: hope. She tied it around Victoria's wrist. Victoria hugged the little girl with tears finally escaping. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that success without connection was simply another form of loneliness. If this story has touched your heart so far, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to Soulful Tales too. Your support encourages more stories that celebrate love, forgiveness, and the extraordinary goodness hidden inside ordinary people. Special request: before this story ends, please comment, "Kindness always finds its way." If you believe one small act of compassion can completely change someone's life. Years later, employees no longer described Victoria Ashcroft as the intimidating CEO who frightened entire boardrooms. They remembered her as the leader who quietly paid for children's education, visited sick employees without announcing it, and never forgot that every worker carried invisible struggles beyond the office doors. As for Noah, he never became wealthy beyond imagination. He never chased fame or recognition, but every evening he returned home to Hazel, knowing he had given her something money could never buy. The example that character is built through everyday choices. That kindness echoes far beyond the moment it is given, and that even the most unexpected meeting at the wrong restaurant table can become the beginning of countless lives changing for the better. Sometimes life doesn't send us the person we expect. Sometimes it places someone completely unexpected in front of us to remind us that every heart carries a story, every stranger fights silent battles, and every act of kindness has the power to transform not only another person's future, but our own. And perhaps that is the greatest miracle of all.